If you were following my trip from Michigan, where I live, here in Ann Arbor, I used my bike and I pedaled all the way down. I made it as far as Chattanooga. I was headed for Florida. I was 450 miles away when I got the call that my parents needed me. They're in their late 80s and they're in failing health and they're forgetful. And so I became their part-time caregiver. I'll still be able to drive the trolley pub in the summertime, in the spring and the fall. When my parents pass, then I will fly back down to Chattanooga, where I've left my bicycle with a friend Dane, who I used to work with up in Ann Arbor. Coincidentally, I moved down here near Chattanooga, and I've been following my YouTube channel, so it was like perfect. I just shot him an email and said, I got an emergency, can you help me? And he said, where are you? I'll come pick you up. He did. I stashed my bike and my trailer and my tent and my sleeping bag and my cook kit with Dane in his garage for an indefinite period, and that's alright. So now I'm changing my focus. Here's my YouTube channel, and where I have almost 4,800 subscribers. I just put up a new video yesterday about how to dye your hair, how to dye your beard, and so that's getting a lot of views, but from people that found my YouTube channel because they love camping and adventure, and I was on this camping adventure until it got interrupted, and so I've had to shift, and a lot of the things that I've shifted is I'm much more interested in my other channel, the Peaceful Caregiver. I don't know if you can see this, but every day things come up as I care for Mom and Dad, who are a little forgetful. And what I want to talk about today with anybody that has a loved one that they care for that has some form of memory loss, both my parents do, is some encouragement. And here's the interesting thing. Mom, her memory loss manifests where she can't remember vocabulary words. She'll say, would you go in the kitchen and get me? And then she can't find the word. So Dad and I are left trying to guess as Mom's frustration builds. It's a stressful situation for Dad because he doesn't know what she wants, but they both feel that he should be able to name that word and do what she wants. And it's so sweet. My mom took me out to breakfast while Dad went to breakfast with his friends. He does that once a week, and it's really nice. So Mom and I were in the car, we had time to talk, and I said, you know, Mom, Dad's got some memory loss going on, and the tough part about that is not thinking that it's a character flaw, that he can't remember something. Where, you know, if you forgot your birthday or your anniversary, that would be a character flaw, hey. But he can't help it if he can't find where he left his slippers, or he's concerned about a checkbook entry he might not have made. And these things become a big deal to him, and so you need to have the ultimate patience with him. And she said, oh, I try to, I do, but sometimes he gets really obstinate or upset. And I said, well, that's marriage. We all know that, and that's happened for a long time. But this is different. This is where he can't remember stuff, and it really shakes his confidence in himself. And that's a very frustrating thing. So what we're going to do is not hold any of this against him. It is not a character flaw. And we're also going to try to help him calm down as best we can. Remind him, get him thinking about all the good things. And I try to do that with you too, Mom. Because every once in a while you forget something, and she says, oh, I know. And then when I get Dad in the car alone, I give him the same pep talk about how we got to be patient with Mom. I know she can't finish her sentences, and she expects you to know what she means. And you're doing your best, but I recognize what a patient man you are, And it's not Mom's fault that she has a little memory loss. This is not a character flaw. And that keeps a lot of friction minimized between these two elderly people who often are confused, and then they look to each other to solve that confusion. Or they look to me, but I am still their son. In their minds, I am still their little boy. And I don't think that's ever going to change. And we are to the point in the memory loss where learning new things is next to impossible. And so the two things that I would urge you to remember about caregiving, especially for loved ones, is if they can't remember, it's not a matter of will. It's not a matter of, oh boy, you know, that was your birthday. I should have remembered that. A big thing. No, it's not your fault anymore if you forget something, because you're physically impaired when it comes to memory. And the other thing is just infinite patience, because if you forget stuff every 5 minutes, and my parents aren't that advanced, but I see the progression. The physical barrier in your mind where things are not recording, you know. You thought you were recording, but you weren't, and now you can't remember. And you can struggle for remembering that thing. But it's not a character flaw, and on the part of the caregiver, you have to have infinite patience. The only way to have that is to say, my loved one can't remember, so I can't hold it against them. And that means if I have to repeat myself every 5 minutes for the rest of their lives, that is my job, okay? And any frustration that comes with that must be immediately minimized, and if I can't do that, I'm not doing a good job. And so patience is required. And you might realize that with the aging mind comes the slowing down, where if I'm not sure if I've got my balance, I've got to move real slow. And Mom forgets her cane. Dad forgets a lot of different things. And it's all right, and it's not their fault, and it's not a character flaw. And it could be extremely frustrating if I let it be, and I don't let it be. One of the ways is I have tons of support from my brothers and sisters. They are there for me, and they got my back, and they've diffused a few situations where I did get frustrated, and so did Mom and Dad. So I have that outlet, and if you don't, you need to find a way to do that. The worst caregiver situation regarding a family and memory loss that I ever heard of was a guy my age. I met him at the podiatrist, taking Charlie, my elderly patient, years before. He had some kind of medical insurance where we could take him to get his toenails cut. Elderly people, hair grows out of their nose and their ears, their spine shrinks so they're shorter, they lose weight, their facial features appear to grow, and one of the odd things that happens is their toenails get thicker and thicker and heavier, and they seem to grow faster and faster. So rather than risk a cut, which could lead to infection around their toes when you're clipping their toes, the doctors, the medical community would rather have you take them to a podiatrist, and they do that professionally. So I'm sitting there waiting for Charlie to get his toenails clipped, and he's in with the podiatrist, and there was a poor guy waiting for his father, who he had brought to the podiatrist for the same reason. And his father had dementia. And I said, "You seem a little frustrated." And he said, "I am dying here. I don't get any time off. I can't leave my father alone. He'll wander outside in the snow. And he argues with me all the time, and he won't acknowledge that I am now a grown man and I have more command of reality than he does, and he wants to lead us into all these crazy situations, and I can't allow it, so it's constant friction. I have another brother, But when he flies in, he doesn't give me any help at all, not even an afternoon off. He just criticizes what I'm doing with Dad and why can't I get along with him. I get along with him when I fly in and I'm here for 4 hours. Just amazing frustration. So if you don't have some kind of support like that, like I do, find it, get it. There are good channels on YouTube that are focused on caregiver support. There are all kinds of different resources if you look for them and find them. Or reach out to your relatives and say, hey, look, I don't want to snap on Dad. I want his remaining years to be good, and that means I need help. So cry for it if you need it. I don't. I'm doing really well after a bumpy time, but my siblings came to my rescue and defense and got it all worked out. I won't go into details, but it's going well. But it's interesting, if you looked at my trip to Florida that I didn't get to complete. But I will one of these days. Part of the interesting things was I stopped at Big Boys and I twisted balloons, and so I got this for my sister, but she lets me play with it. It's a Big Boy bank. It's a happy memory for me. And my parents bought me this after they worried so much when I did my first long bicycle trip about 10 years ago. It was, okay, well, we're going to worry about you. We don't want you to do this, but we must understand, Dougie, that not all who wander are lost. How wonderful. And my mom got me this when I was like 10 years old at the Ann Arbor Art Fair. And I thought, I love this thing. And I also thought, as I grew older, my mom knows me so much, so well. Yeah, I wouldn't care how crappy the little place was, the little tree house, if it gave me the solitude I needed when I needed it. And so that's what that's about. Look at that. I don't know who made it. Some Ann Arbor artist who was juried and passed and went to the Ann Arbor Art Fair to sell his stuff. My mom saw that for me when I was little and she bought it for me. It's a precious memento of the different times in my life. I'm a lucky man. But when I get upset or I get overwhelmed, I'm frustrated, I know what to do. I know how to step away from the situation, find some siblings who can talk me down from the ledge. Above all, don't take it out on Mom and Dad, because it isn't a character flaw to have some memory loss. That's just what happens to old people, and it's all right. We're going to make it through. Anyway, if you're out there in this frustrating situation, I commend you for your patience, whatever you can muster. I know it's hard, and I ask you to hang in there and make a little time if you can for yourself, and recognize what a wonderful thing you're doing, which is hands-on caring. You're not throwing money at a problem and not doing anything. You are there to help physically and mentally, and that's wonderful. So thank you for that. And you have a great day. Get a cup of tea or something, put your feet up, take a deep breath and let it pass, okay? The sun will shine again.